Welcome to the City Current Show, powered by Hagen Botham Insurance and Financial Services.
This show focuses on sharing good news and powering the good in our community. Now here's your host, Andrew Bartolotta.
Welcome to the cityCURRENT Show, where we bring you uplifting stories of individuals and organizations making a positive impact in our community and around the globe. I'm your host, Andrew Bartolotta, and today we have a special guest who has brought faith, fun, and unforgettable storytelling to families for decades. And if you've ever sung along to Silly Songs with Larry or enjoyed the beloved VeggieTales series, you already know the work of Mike Nawrocki, co-creator of VeggieTales, the original voice of Larry the Cucumber, and an influential figure in faith-based entertainment. Mike has been writing, directing, and producing wholesome content for kids since 1993, and today we're diving into his latest adventure, the Dead Sea Squirrels, the impactful book series now turned into a brand new animated series that blends humor, history, and faith in a way that families will love. Mike, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Andrew, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. So we are really excited to learn more about the Dead Sea Squirrels. I want to set the stage for those that have heard the name Mike Nawrocki before, that have watched VeggieTales before. Let's go back a little bit. What inspired you to get into creating VeggieTales, but also really just the faith-based entertainment?
Well, so I grew up in the church, and I had no idea that I would grow up to be an animated cucumber eventually. But I wanted to do ministry, and initially, what that looked like for me was medicine. I wanted to be a missionary doctor, and so I went to a denominational college that didn't have a pre-med program, but I wanted to go there for a year or two, get some Bible classes out of the way, then go on to do pre-med somewhere else. Well, I went to this small college. I had been a theater kid. I had loved, acting and performing and music. And I got into puppetry as well. And so at this small denominational college that I went to, I ran into a guy named Phil Vischer, who was also really into puppetry, Jim Henson, Mel Brooks, Monty Python. And we just hit it off creatively right away and just had a great time writing and performing together. Years later, while I was doing my undergrad at University of Illinois, Chicago in pre-med, we cooked up the idea. I was working in video post as a way to pay my way through school. We cooked up the idea of VeggieTales. And just because computer animation was just emerging, we had a lot of success in writing and storytelling for puppetry. And now if we could combine this new art form of computer animation using really simple characters with no limbs, no arms, no clothes, and be able to tell stories, we felt like that would be a great thing to do. And so it was those. So for me, it was like I really wanted, and I wanted to be a pediatrician. And so I felt like God led me in ultimately in that direction. But I graduated pre-med, was about ready to go, kind of go into med school on that path. And then we created our first episode. And then I ended up just taking that path. And so that passion for storytelling and for, acting and writing, that's always been there for me. And I'm just so thankful and grateful that I've been able to kind of use this as kind of my life's pursuit.
Well, I love that you thought that the path would be more from a healthcare perspective, but then finding your passion and then aligning it with your values and being able to disciple your way through faith-based entertainment.
Mm.
I think it's a really cool reminder from all of us in different industries that you can be in several different industries, any industry that you're in, and you can still bring your values and Christ's love through the work that you do. And so you did that for decades through the representation of vegetables. And so
Yeah, that's right.
in a very creative way. And it's something that, of course, my generation enjoyed. And now seeing it through the lens of your children, it really is. And while you're doing it, you're seeing your children and how they're enjoying it and learning about the Bible and Christ through these episodes and movies.
Yeah.
After decades in faith-based entertainment, what do you see as the biggest shift in the industry today?
Well, I think from a a business standpoint, the biggest shift from when we started VeggieTales has just been the move to streaming. You know, we our business model was based off of what was brand new at the time in the early '90s, which was home video. The ability to create something, put it out there, and then people could buy it and watch it at home was kind of revolutionary. We had, before that point, you had to wait on it either showing up on one of the three major networks or being in the theater. So that's the business model that Veggies was built off of. And of course, nobody buys DVDs anymore, or certainly not enough to make a viable business model. So from a business perspective, it's changed over to streaming, and sort of the gatekeepers have changed, from retailers and bookstores, over to streaming platforms. So that's been the biggest thing. One of I've also seen a more of an acceptance for, at the time when we made VeggieTales, there wasn't really anything faith-based, for kids that was of any kind of note or quality level. And so and when we made our first feature VeggieTale, Jonah, the story of Jonah, we couldn't get that funded through outside sources just because nobody was interested in faith films. So I've seen that change, and there's a lot more going on now. I think people of faith are getting better as storytellers. There's better stuff coming out there, and there's more of an acceptance and a realization that there's a big audience. There's a lot of parents who bring their kids up in Christian homes, who want these values, instilled in their kids, and story is such a powerful way to do that. I've seen that change over the years, and hopefully that continues. Just, I think story is really powerful, but storytelling is a craft that you need to work on. And, you can have a great message, but if you don't know how to tell a good story with it, then it kind of falls flat. And so, that's what, that's what I hope is progressing and getting better as well.
Well, from an outsider's point of view, I've also seen a lot of those similarities. And I think as a father of three toddlers, watching what our children consume is
Yeah.
very important. And we've become way more intentional about the media that our kids are consuming after just like handing them your phone when you're out at a restaurant. And
Right, right.
they're on, say, YouTube Kids, and even from a kid's standpoint, some of the videos that we saw them watching, we were like, "What is this? Why?"
Right.
And so after we did our research and subscribed to Minno, it has been an incredible experience, not only watching them and how they even play with their toys and the conversations they have with their siblings about that.
Right.
Then also, my wife Lacey and I enjoying shows like the Dead Sea Squirrels and the Slugs and Bugs show,
Yeah.
which our kids were just we were laughing last night watching it before bed, and all of the fun messages, but also just the quality of content, like you said, has it how it's progressed over the years. I think it's been really cool to see there. As we dive into the Dead Sea Squirrels, we had the chance to preview it, and we have just it has been so fun to see them laugh, and to the kids wanting to watch it when you ask, "Hey, what do you want to watch today?" The Dead Sea Squirrels. And
I love that. I love hearing that.
it's cool. And now knowing, of course, that it started as a book series, walk us through the inspiration behind the series,
Yeah.
and and give listeners and viewers a preview of what's to come throughout the series.
Yeah, sure. So I originally conceived it back in my VeggieTales days. We drew a line in the sand early on with VeggieTales to never depict Jesus as a vegetable. And that it seems self-evident, right? You don't want to do it. Just we were irreverent, but we wanted to draw the line there. And so which obviously eliminated the possibility for telling a lot of New Testament stories. And so I wanted to be able to do that. And when I left Big Idea in 2016, I started to develop this idea as an animated series because that's what I knew. And the nugget of the idea was there would be two characters from the first century that somehow could be transported into the modern century. And so Merle and Pearl Squirrel, they're an old Jewish couple. Merle has always, they grew up in Galilee. Merle has always wanted to visit the Dead Sea because he heard you can't sink. So he puts together a little raft and takes his wife, down the Jordan, and they spend a nice day in the sun and the beach and, have fun in the sea. But he didn't think it through very far and doesn't know what to do now. They can't get back up. It's super hot. It's super salty, dry. They seek shelter in a nearby cave. They get lost in the cave. They're all salted up and, they dry out then, and they basically are preserved for 2,000 years until a little boy finds them who's on summer break with his dad, who's an archaeologist. Michael sneaks him back home in his backpack, sets him up on his windowsill back home in Tennessee, lifts open the window so the squirrels don't stink up his room. It rains. They rehydrate, reanimate, and now they've got lessons and stories to share from the first century. And so it's a great way to teach kids the lessons of the New Testament and, just as it applies to their lives today. So that's kind of the general conceit of the show. And I had I had the idea as an animated series first because that's what I knew. But a friend of mine, Dan Lynch, he had spent his career in the publishing industry. He said, "Hey, Mike, have you ever thought about this as an early reader series?" And I hadn't, but I thought that was really interesting. So I went away and did some research. I tell people I read a lot of, Diary of a Wimpy Kid and Captain Underpants books just to kind of get the format down. And yeah, worked up a pitched it to Tyndale Publishers out of Chicago. They loved the idea and, started on the books. And they were doing well and then got the opportunity to do an animated pilot and then raise the money for the rest of the series. And so that in a nutshell is kind of how it all progressed. But so typically the stories are Michael and his friends are experiencing, an issue that the squirrels can speak into by a story from the New Testament. So we flash back. Those are told in like 2 or 3 minute songs, but then Michael's able to work out his issue in the modern day. As the stories progress, as the season 1 progresses, there's a little bit of intrigue. There's a collector that is after the squirrels that ends up, recapturing them. I don't want to give too much away, but as Michael tries to re-rescue them, we retrace in modern Israel a lot of the same, places where Jesus lived and ministered. And so there's a lot to learn about the geography of Israel, but then also the life and ministry of Jesus in the early church. And so that's kind of, sort of the breakdown of the whole idea of the series.
Well, I love that you not only blend humor, but biblical history and modern day storytelling, because I think just from my generation growing up, learning not necessarily just the global aspect of it all and how important that is, and learning the more New Testament stories, I think are really important for this next generation to learn about, but then do it in the way that they are used to with humor. And the quality of the animation is, I mean, it's pristine. I love it. It's so fun. Just I mean, I told you before, but when you watch your kids literally just belly laugh while watching something,
Oh
you
yeah.
it's something that we're really thankful for as a parent. You mentioned these flashback songs, and I want to touch on your partnership and your creative endeavors at Lipscomb University.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah, so when we started setting up the production pipeline for animation, I'm also a professor at Lipscomb. I teach in the cinematic arts department, so I teach both in film and animation. And we've got a terrific program, and as well as a terrific theater program. We're all integrated there with our programs, and so we wanted to find a way to fold in the students into production. And so these flashback songs were a perfect way to do that because we could set them up as kind of mini productions for students to work on throughout the show. And so, we've partnered with professional animation studio actually out of New Zealand, and they do the lion's share of the animation, but we carve out this little, flashback song for the students. And it's worked out great. They're getting the opportunity to work on a real world show. They're really talented, so it looks great. And they're getting IMDb credit. They're getting paid while they do it. So it's just, I think, for kind of a model for higher education, it's just great. And so the program, it's really benefited the program. It's really benefited the students, and it's been great for the show. So there's a lot of wonderful things about it. And we've cast students from our theater department to do voices, and they're working alongside professional voiceover actors. And so there's a lot of great things about it. And of course, for me, as a songwriter, getting to work with Steve Taylor, who's one of my idols in music. Steve is producing on the show, but he's also co-writing the songs with me and working alongside Kurt Heineke, who I've worked with a number of years on the music side, and then John Painter on the music side as well. It's just been just so much fun, and we're just really excited about the show itself, but then how it's helping to train students and get launch them into the job market.
I think that is really the key there for these college students to get hands-on learning. It is so important. And then they're already launching their career while they're in school. So that to me is a great addition to an already, uh, incredible series. And so when you talk about having some of the students as using them for their voiceover talent, you also have some incredible guest stars. Tease us with who we can uh who we can watch this season through the eyes of the animation, but also hear some familiar voices.
Yeah, so, particularly in the realm of music, because we wanted to make sure the music was top notch and the singers were great. And so, as I thought about like who would I want to have as a singing Jesus, singing, do unto others what you want done to you, who would I want that to be? And Matthew West was the first person who popped into my mind. I'm friends with Matthew. He's got a fantastic voice. He's a great performer. And so I reached out to him and asked, and he was thrilled, and he jumped on. So he's, the singing voice of Jesus every time we encounter, one of the New Testament lessons that's in music, and he just does a great job there. Steve Taylor, who I mentioned, who I'm writing with, he's also a performer in his own right. He's our singing Apostle Paul. But we've also Mac Powell is John the Baptist. Ellie Holtham is Mary. Her husband Drew in real life is Joseph in the series. Yeah, Bart Millard. Yeah, so there's just we've Katie Nicole as well. So we've just been able to work with some really wonderful singers out there on the voice side, on the voiceover side. Duncan Phillips, who's the drummer for the Newsboys, he's Australian, but he's just got a great kind of delivery and great Australian accent. He plays the little role of Dave the Lizard, who comes up later in the first season. And then my old buddy Phil Vischer, Bob the Tomato, he makes a guest appearance in a couple episodes as Larry Larry, one of the Tennessee Squirrels, and then Beth Moore, who she's also one of the Tennessee Squirrels, as Mary Squirrel. So it's been really fun to have folks kind of step in and lend their talents to the show.
What has living in the Nashville area, how has that benefited not only for you to work with world-class performers? I mean, you're a world-class creative as well, but I have to think that even regionally, being able to work with those in your own backyard has to have a benefit to collaboration, but also part of the storytelling.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, I think just that proximity is really important because it's not just like, okay, this is just a business thing and we're working with these people on a, kind of a purely, a business
Transactional.
sense. It's like
Yeah.
we're going to the church with these people, our kids are going to school together on the same soccer teams. And so it becomes very familial and friendly, and you're just rooting for each other. It's like, I'd love to have you in there because I think you'd be great. And, just to have the caliber of talent that exists here is just phenomenal. And I think, then it just shows in the final product.
Yeah, great answer there. And it's really cool to see, especially being in the community, to see the collaboration there and knowing that it's not a transactional experience. It's
Right. Right.
transformative and very,
Yes.
you said it's a family. So being able to work together with them throughout the decades and now together with the Dead Sea Squirrels has to be so much fun.
Oh,
Uh,
it really is.
I can imagine. Okay, so the Dead Sea Squirrels airs on Minno. Minno is a game changer for faith-based family content. Why was Minno, the streaming platform, the right home for the Dead Sea Squirrels?
Well, I think they've made a lot of smart decisions on kind of how they want to brand themselves, who they want to serve. The content that they have on there. You mentioned Slugs and Bugs, but they also carry VeggieTales. And so a lot of parents, VeggieTales is still alive and kicking and doing really well. It's amazing to me to see, how many new generations are, still, embrace the show. So I love that. We actually did the Wonder Project, who is, if you've heard of House of David, that's coming out soon on Amazon. We did our distribution and licensing deal through the Wonder Project, and then Wonder and Minno then worked out that this would be a great place for squirrels. But the team there is fantastic. They've got really talented people at the helm and running that show. And so I feel like there's a big space. I mean, we saw that with VeggieTales. There's a big market for quality content for people of faith who want great shows for their kids, and we saw that, just by virtue of how many videos VeggieTales sold over the years. So there's a big audience, and I think Minno's figuring out how to serve that audience well in a way that makes sense, and that's economically viable, as a business model. So we're really, really thrilled and couldn't be happier to be partnered with them.
As a newer subscriber to Minno, like I've mentioned before, it is really there's such a sense of peace when your children have screen time that you can trust the media in which that they're watching and that they're inspired and they are learning. And so whenever they are watching Minno, you know that any program on Minno that they watch is going to align with your family values, but
Right.
maybe something that you watched as a kid too. So
Right.
from Bible Man to VeggieTales to Princess Gigi to now the Dead Sea Squirrels, it's so fun to see that the generational experiencing so many great faith-based content. So, after all these years of storytelling, as we wrap up, what continues to inspire you to create faith-based content for kids? What puts a smile on your face when you look at the work that you've been doing for over 3 decades?
Well, I mean, for me, it's just, I think story is so powerful in shaping kids' worldview and how they see the world in their place in it. And so I've just been thrilled to be able to do that. And now, I mentioned I teach in college, but students who come up to me or folks who I meet who grew up on VeggieTales, just telling me the type of impact that the show's had on their lives and their formative years is just, it's just really gratifying to hear that the work that you've done has had an impact on people's lives and they've appreciated it and it's been a good thing for them. And so, I mean, what more could you ask for in a career? I've loved it and having the opportunity to do it. And then also just the process of creating stories is just so much fun, working with talented people to bring something to life that, hadn't existed before. And it's just incredible process, and I just am thrilled to be able to continue to do it.
Well, thank you. And remind people where they can go to watch the Dead Sea Squirrels, purchase the books as well, and support your
Yeah.
efforts.
Yeah, so the books are available wherever books are sold. Amazon is you kind of most people's go-to for books, so you can find them on Amazon. And then gominno.com is Minno's site. Of course, like any streaming site, you download the app and get the app and that sort of thing. And I know there's some for folks that are new to Minno, they've got like a introductory period where you can kind of try it out, see how you like it. Yeah, so it's Amazon for books and gominno.com for the animated series.
Well, Mike, your passion for storytelling, humor, and meaningful content has shaped generations, and we're so excited to see how the Dead Sea Squirrels and platforms like Minno continue that legacy. Thank you so much for powering the good, not only in our community, but globally through your creative, faith-based storytelling. Mike Nawrocki, thank you so much for coming on the City Current Show.
Andrew, thank you so much. God bless.